Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. We're going to be covering 7 characters that I think are underrated. And just to be clear, when I say underrated, I think a lot of these characters are very good and we recognize that, but I feel like their limelight gets stolen by other things and they don't quite get the love that they deserve. Because I don't want this to be, oh Phil, these guys are really good, what are you talking about? I just feel like other characters kind of steal the limelight where they deserve more of it, right? So that's underrated. Let's get in here. Let's thank the channel members for continuing to support me through thick and thin, good and bad videos. Thank you guys for keeping the faith. Thank you for being a part of this amazing community. You are all so loved. Thank you again for just keeping sticking around with me. I know I don't always get the greatest content out there some days, and I mean, today took me a little bit because I couldn't figure out why my camera wasn't working. So thank you guys again. I just had to press the function F4 button, by the way. That's how much of a boomer I am. I had to Google that. So let's get into the video here, guys. Let's talk about 7 underrated characters. Alright, so leading us off strong, we have Grand Master Yoda. This dude is so plug and play, right? This is the Jedi plug and play. Now, that is because his kit is just so versatile for so many different Jedi leads. He is a support unit. He has a leadership, which doesn't even matter. His lead doesn't exist. But he's got the Jedi and Galactic Republic tag, which we love. By the way, this new artwork is sick. Now, there's 2 big parts to his kit. He can gain turn meter on his basic and turn meter on his special here. But he also has a bonus turn. And so right there, you can utilize this guy even in situations where you can't gain turn meter because he still has a bonus turn mechanic. And this bonus turn can be very important because he likes to take a lot of turns, and especially because he likes to use this battle meditation where he's going to spread buffs across the whole team. The more that you can spam this, where you're giving out foresight, tenacity up, protection up, and any other, non-unique buffs that he has, it's insane. You will actually it can be so incredibly annoying to go up against this guy, as I'm sure you've learned in Conquest. Why I think Yoda gets underrated is because there's these big ticket Jedi. You've got your Galactic Legend Jedis, but then you've got like Jedi Knight Luke and Cal, General Skywalker, and Yoda just kind of always sort of is in the back of your head that you kind of forget is there. But I have used this character with Padme, under a Padme lead, Jedi Knight Revan lead, Bastila Shan lead, Jedi Knight Luke, Keller and Beck, Qui-Gon Jinn, Jedi Master Luke, Jedi Master Kenobi. I mean, the list goes on and on that he can just fit into those teams. And the thing is, he doesn't feel out of place in any of them. Like, there is not a single team that I've used Yoda in where I really feel like he's out of place. Because in Padme, think about it. He's spreading out buffs. He's giving protection up. He helps you really ramp your courage quickly. I feel like that's something that you kind of miss out on with him. Now, the one caveat with him, he is very squishy. He doesn't have a lot of health, doesn't have a lot of protection, but he doesn't always need it because of the amount of foresight that he can gain on his basic and through his special and his bonus turn ability, being able to kind of reset cooldown. It's not really a cooldown reset, but that's basically what if you get a bonus turn through an ability, you're kind of helping reduce your cooldowns, so he's one of these characters that I think deserves a lot more credit and just doesn't get enough of it for being that plug-and-play Jedi. Next on the list, we've got Trench. No, I'm just kidding. I had to put him here just because I wanted to shock you all. I do think Trench is underrated, but not for, quite like some of these other characters. Kyle Katarn. I think this guy deserves more love. I feel like of all of the Starkiller Rex, Kyle's kind of the one that gets crapped on the most. Which is funny, because initially it was Darth Talon, but I think now we're kind of all on that board. But Kyle sort of gets a lot of crap. And I don't really get the hate, because he has, again, you're going to see that I pay a lot of attention to tags. And having the Jedi, Rebel, and then Rebel Fighter tag makes him just so incredibly useful. It allows him, early in the game, this guy shines for you because you can put him with a Jedi team, Rebel Fighter team. It doesn't matter. The tag is there. And this, I've used him with Leia. I've used him with Mon Mothma, Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Master Luke. You can use him in a lot of ways. But it's the fact that he's this, he's got a lot of offense potential, right? He has a lot of offense potential, and a lot of it is predicated on him being able to attack out of turn and gain Jedi Knight. Now, a lot of his synergy is built around Rebel fighters, which is not the worst thing in the world because there's some very good Rebel fighter teams, particularly with Luth and Rael coming in soon and potentially being able to make Kyle, be even more of an insane character. But I think a lot of people underestimate Kyle's value because he was kind of on that Mon Mothma team that you just set on defense and you let it go. But Kyle's one of the reasons why that team is so dangerous, right? At the start of each encounter, Kyle gains turn meter, which is why they would start off so quickly. Whenever a Rebel fighter attacks out of turn, they gain 12% offense until the end of their next turn. So, everybody's kind of constantly assisting in that Mon Mothma team, dealing a lot more offense. So you ever wonder why you get caught off guard by that team? Here's why. He's just, a fantastic character. I absolutely love Kyle. And he kind of is one of these characters who I think you gain more appreciation for the more that you play and find yourself using him in situations. And then the other thing too, his ship is criminally underrated. It doesn't have a real home, which is the problem, but it is fantastic as a cleanup. I use this with Home 1 as a cleanup all the time, and I am waiting for the day that it finally enters into the meta whenever Home 1 gets some sort of rework and Red 5 comes into the game. So I think Kyle's definitely underrated. Again, those tags, those juicy tags, man. And I think he's only going to get better once we get Luthen. All right, look. It's funny that, we're starting off with 3 light side characters. Next one is Jedi Training Rey. Now, you have to understand where this is coming from, because a lot of you are going to say she's not that good. Jedi Training Rey is one of these characters that I think the more you understand her kit, the more appreciation you get. So, number 1, she has healing immunity for 2 turns, right? Which this cannot be dispelled. And when you think about that, in a regular fight, that's not that big of a deal. But think about her with Rey combined with Ben Solo, where there can be some healing immunity on your team for a long period of time. And she's part of that problem, right? She is a big, big part of that problem. She also has, a dispel on the target with ability block, daze, offense down, speed down. And that even if you don't get your Star Killer, if your Star Killer gets offense down from this thing, man, it can destroy you. It is brutal when that happens. And she's got high cooldowns. She absolutely 5, right? They're meant to be reduced through, her lead and other things, but just a really, really solid character. Her leadership is actually not that bad, and this is kind of why she made the list. I think a lot of players forget just how good her leadership can be, and I feel especially because of the light speed bundles, a lot of people won't have the opportunity to use her as a leader, but she is one of those resistance characters that using her as a leader for a long time is really solid. She was honestly, until Zori came into the game, she was probably your best resistance lead. She was your option for that, outside of, obviously GL Rey. But the big thing with JTR that I think kind of goes unnoticed, that outside of, I forgot to mention that she can basically dispel buffs on herself. She has a 40% chance to dispel all debuffs on herself. It's 100%. But here's the reason I love this character. Is inside of her mastery, is it her mastery? Yes, her mastery. She gains dodge chance. And all of you know that you've gone up against those fights against Galactic Legends Rey. If you let JTR ramp her mastery, it becomes almost impossible to kill her. And it becomes so frustrating to watch her dodge, and dodge. Because when she dodges, right, every time she evades, she recovers 5% health, 5% protection. And if she's just constantly dodging you, man, it is so annoying. It is one of the big reasons why I say that this character, I think, is criminally underrated, is people don't recognize why that dodge chance is so important. You think about it, going from, look at this, 15% here to 21%. That's a massive jump to relegate. So she is one that I think we don't give enough credit for in that Rey team for being as big of a problem as she is with all of those, dodge chances and things. I can't say enough good things about JTR sometimes. All right, we got to keep moving here, and we're going to get on to Boba Fett. Now, Boba Fett, the reason he is underrated is, in my opinion, I have found that the longer I've played this game, the more I keep going back to utilizing this character. He just has there's so much in his kit that's really good. He's got a potential to double tack on his basic, right? 100% against scoundrels, right? And he can inflict damage over times. He's got an AoE daze, right? And this AoE, remember, it's a 1-turn ability block on everybody and 2 turns on the selected target. That 2-turn ability block is brutal, man. He also has the execute ability that if you delete somebody with this, right? Which remember, when he uses this, right, you're going to go ahead and it's going to deal additional damage for every single buff or debuff on the target enemy. So with the whole Lord Vader damage over time, protection up nonsense coming back, Boba Fett has been one of those characters that can just delete him because of all those stacks of protection up. That's why, right? The big thing with this, right, number one, they can't be revived, and then he reduces his cooldowns by 1. So Boba kind of turns into this little runaway train, if you will, that if you let him kind of get off and execute, starts reducing cooldowns, he kind of runs away from you. Because on his payout, right, when he gets his payout, he gains an additional 50 speed and defense penetration equal to 200% of his defense penetration. Basically, the higher relic you are, the more benefit you're gaining here. But the plus 50 speed is kind of crazy, right? He also has Bounty Hunter's Resolve, which again, he just comes back. And remember, he can regain this when he gets a kill, right? At the start of the encounter, and whenever he defeats an enemy, he gains Bounty Hunter's Resolve. And then if you put the Zeta here, he recovers protection on that killing blow, which it's menacing. The sneaky little bit here that some of you probably don't recognize, but his leadership is like broken with Zam. So you gain critical damage and critical chance, but then you gain 15 speed for each debuffed enemy. You gain max health equal to potency. But here's the real runaway train. 15% turn meter whenever a thermal detonator explodes. Right? 15% turn meter. Think about Zam throwing out all those thermal detonators. Those are debuffs. So now all of your, your whole team has speed. She deletes one of them. Boom. Turn meter. This is a team. I used to set this on defense way back in the day. Obviously, like nowadays, I can't set this in Kyber 1 because it doesn't, it's not going to hold up. But for some of you in the lower levels, setting a team like this can really trap some people if they haven't seen it before. Especially in like 3v3. Kind of setting, like Boba, Dengar, Zam, like you could maybe surprise some people. It's something I've done in the past, and I have seen success with it. So he's definitely kind of that runaway train. I mean, we don't need to talk about his ship. You guys know he's a good pilot, right? Don't need to get into that. All right, next is Kye Mond. Where are the haters at now? Where are all of you who said, "Oh, I don't need Kye Mond. He's not that good." No, I'm just playing. Like I know I take the raid out of this list. The reason why I think Kye Mond deserves to be in this list now is Keller and Beck. With Keller and Beck now, even without the Datacron still being a very good team, Kye Mond's importance to your account just jumps, right? It skyrockets. It's another Galactic Republic Jedi to put with your Keller and Beck team, which allows you to maybe put some additional characters with Queen Amidala, right? The big thing with Kye Mond, he has gotten a tweak. His Master of Forms, he used to be able to taunt, which he no longer has, which is not the greatest thing if we're being honest. That taunt was just so incredibly annoying. But this the decisive thrust, if this defeats an enemy, reset all of his cooldowns. I mean, in the raid, this is really good. But just think about that if you're in this Ataru form, somebody's close to death, and you use this ability, you reset all of his cooldowns, right? So whatever you're going to end up using, boom, reset his cooldowns. I mean, this is huge, right? That is an amazing ability for a character. I mean, again, we talk enough about his basic mini leadership here, which is, so incredibly important to whether it's the Qui-Gon Jinn team, a Keller and Beck team, he is like that good. The other thing I'll say with Kye Mond that sometimes doesn't get enough attention is that he can, if he's in a Taru form, he double taps on his basic. And one of the big reasons why that is really nice is think about, say, like territory battles. If you call him to assist under a Jedi Master Luke team and you use Jedi Master Luke's inherited teachings, the first instance of damage goes in at like the 60% of Jedi Master Luke's base, but then he attacks again for full damage. So your damage output with Jedi Master Luke can skyrocket with Kye Mond. And that just makes him incredibly more potent on those assists because they can't even counterattack with those. So it just, your damage output goes incredibly high. And then he also has, the ability block, or not ability block. Where is it at? Versatile strike. He attacks again. But he also just has some, he's got some very, very good, I'm trying to read some of these abilities. I forget, all the different things. Yeah, here it is. So, in the Master of Forms, he has the Ataru Lunge, which he can inflict armor shred. Otherwise, he can daze everybody and, it... Jeez, I'm, flipping all over the place here. His ability to switch between forms, depending on what you need in that battle, is crazy important. But that armor shred is the one I really want to pay attention to. Being able to stack armor shreds on certain enemies is, a big part of being able to kill them inside of 5 minutes, and he's a big reason you can do that. So I think Kye Mond, absolutely underrated character, and that's outside of the raid. Inside of the raid, he's one of the most important characters. Suck it up. I've said time and time again, he is worth it. All right, next, this is a shout out for the Grand Admiral here, right? Gary. No, I think Stormtrooper is incredibly underrated for what he does, right? For what this guy actually does, I feel Stormtrooper is extremely underrated. So he's got that Empire, Imperial Remnant, Imperial Trooper tags. Those are the 3 best tags to have as if you're an Imperial, right? To be able to be used by all of those different teams. So on the basic, I love that it has this high damage variance, but if it does not score a critical hit or is evaded, the target becomes exposed. That there is an extremely important part of some of these teams being able to increase their damage output. Really like that. Next, he has his taunt, which gives defense up. And he removes 10% turn meter from each enemy whenever he's damaged while taunting. And then he has his unique ability, which even without the Zeta, everybody gains, he's going to gain 40% defense for each living Empire ally. And then Imperial Troopers have an extra 30% defense. So he is even, limiting the amount of damage the enemy can do when he's not taunting. I love this guy. I don't think he gets enough credit for being a very solid tank. He doesn't have a super high health and protection pool. He doesn't, right? But it's the defense, right? He's got a ton of armor. And again, on top of that, with his unique ability, the amount of armor he gets is just crazy. And then if you do equip his Zeta, gains 40% offense for each defeated Empire ally. That one's all right. It's not that incredible, but at the start of his turn, Imperial Remnants would gain protection up 20%. That is very nice. That is one that I have been eyeing up with my Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. So don't underestimate that Zeta with the protection up for Imperial Remnants. All right, and then the last one, if you know what HFS is, because you've seen 21 Jump Street, you know what I'm talking about, but Sith Marauder. This is a character that I think gets overlooked all the time. As a Sith Eternal requirement, as a pilot in Leviathan fleet, we don't often talk about Sith Marauder being just an incredibly useful Sith. I've used him with the Sith Trio, Sith Eternal Emperor, the Darth Malgus team. He's got you can kind of fit him into a bunch of different teams and he's good. Darth Revan teams, Malgus, whatever it is, he's there, right? He's a very solid character. Now, his basic isn't anything glamorous, right? He can inflict offense down. The special is when things start to get interesting. So, you're going to deal your damage, right? Potency up, whatever. But if this attack scores a critical hit, reduce target's max health by 15%, which can't be resisted until the end of the encounter, with a cooldown of 3. So again, think about some of those fights that kind of linger on for a while. If you're using, Sith Marauder and using this ability to with a critical hit on somebody, you're reducing their max health, which is going to allow you to get through that fight faster. You cannot discount abilities where it's a reduction of max health. And then he has an amazing unique ability. 10% defense, health steal, and tenacity for each buff on all characters. Right? But then it gets better. Sith Marauder has 2% critical chance, offense, and potency for each debuff. So think about those Sith teams where there's a lot of debuffs on the enemy. His offense can ramp like crazy. Finally, whenever an enemy uses an ability outside of their turn, 20% turn meter. He can effectively stop a lot of those turn meter trained teams because he's going to gain that turn meter, take a lot of turns, and potentially be reducing your max health. This guy, hits like a truck. It kind of catches you off guard sometimes when there's a lot of debuffs on the field and he does his basic, or he does the saber throws and you just delete someone. You're like, holy, where did that come from? My man, it's all in his kit. You've just got to read it. So those are 7 underrated characters. Let me know your thoughts. Again, like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.